I paid for a private villa, but when we got there, my parents invited all their friends without asking me. I didn't complain, just sent a message. When they realized their mistake, it was too late. I should have known this trip was a mistake. The second I stepped inside the villa, I felt it, the shift in the air, the suffocating weight of familiarity. The expensive marble floors, the ocean breeze drifting through the open terrace doors, the laughter, all of it felt wrong. And then I heard them. I swear his job is the biggest scam I've ever seen. My father's voice rang out over the chatter. Imagine getting paid a fortune to just sit and click buttons all day. Laughter. Loud, hearty, humiliating. I froze in the doorway. He's always buried in those screens, my mother added, sipping from her wine glass. No wonder he never had a girlfriend. A man should use his hands for real work. Another roar of laughter. And that's when I saw them. 12 strangers. No, not strangers. My parents' friends, their colleagues, my uncle, my father's old work buddies. The kind of men who still believed that real work meant lifting something heavy and that anything done on a computer was a joke. They were drinking my whiskey, eating from my catering, relaxing in the villa I had paid for. I clenched my jaw. I had spent months planning this trip. It was supposed to be just us, me, my mother, my father. A way to reconnect, to set aside the years of distance and subtle disappointment. But of course, they had other plans. My mother turned and finally noticed me. Her face lit up. Oh, there he is. The tech wizard himself. I forced a smile. Who are all these people? She waved a lazy hand. Just a few friends. Don't be dramatic, sweetheart. Yeah, my father chuckled, clapping one of his buddies on the back. You should have seen their faces when we told them you paid for this whole place. They were so impressed. Impressed? That's what this was. A chance for them to show off their golden goose. I shouldn't have been surprised. They'd been doing it my whole life. Growing up, I was always the odd one out. My father owned a construction business. My uncle was a mechanic. My grandfather was a factory worker who built things with his hands. Real work. And then there was me, the kid who spent too much time on computers. Stop hiding behind screens. My father used to bark when I was 16, fiddling with my first coding project. No one's going to pay you to sit around pressing buttons all day. Even when I landed my first remote IT job, making more money at 22 than he did in his prime, he laughed. Unbelievable, he'd muttered at a family gathering. Companies really will throw money at anything these days. My mother was no better. Oh, I just worry about you, she'd sigh in front of her friends. All those hours alone in front of a screen, it's not normal. You should be out in the real world, meeting real people. They had spent years dismissing my work, my success. And yet, they had no problem spending my money. And now, standing in the middle of this villa, my villa, watching them bask in luxury, they were doing it again. You know, I was just telling them, my father continued, oblivious to my expression, how insane it is that people actually pay you for this stuff. I forced a breath through my nose. For what stuff? You know, he smirked, sitting around, staring at code. It's not like you're building anything real. One of his friends chuckled. Man, if I had a job like that, I'd work 2 hours a day and golf the rest. Right? My father grinned. You could probably train a monkey to do it. That was it. I slowly pulled out my phone, exhaled, and tapped on my booking confirmation. And that's when I saw it. A new invoice from the villa company. Total cost, $52,000. 10 times the original price. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I could afford it. That wasn't the point. The point was that this was too far. I looked up at my parents, still laughing, still oblivious. I typed a single message. Send. They wouldn't realize their mistake until it was too late. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and waited. At first, nothing changed. The guests kept drinking, my mother kept giggling, my father kept cracking jokes at my expense. Then, barely a minute later, my mother's phone pinged. She picked it up lazily, still mid-sip of her wine. The moment her eyes flicked over the screen, her smile froze. Then, her face drained of color. My father noticed. What's wrong? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she thrust the phone toward him with trembling fingers. He grabbed it, frowning. As he read, his expression darkened. What is this? His voice lost all amusement. I let the silence stretch between us for a few beats before speaking, my voice calm. That, I said, is the new invoice. He blinked. New what? I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. The villa has an occupancy limit of 6 people. We are now at 18. I gestured at the crowd around us. And luxury villas charge extra for additional guests. My father's fingers tightened around the phone. How much extra? I smiled. 10 times the original cost. A thick silence settled over the room. Then my uncle laughed. Oh, come on. That's gotta be a joke. He slapped my father's shoulder. He's messing with you. My mother shot me a desperate look. Tell me you didn't actually approve this. I tilted my head. I didn't approve anything. I just paid for what was used. My father's grip on the phone whitened. That's over 50 grand. I raised an eyebrow. I thought I was a button-clicking monkey who didn't do real work. Shouldn't be a problem for me. My mother flinched. One of the guests cleared his throat. Maybe we should sit down. My father barked, his tone sharp. A few of them shifted uncomfortably but obeyed. My mother's voice dropped to a sickly sweet whisper. Sweetheart, listen. I know this is a lot, but let's be reasonable. We're family. Oh, now we're family? I let out a humorless laugh. That's funny, because 5 minutes ago, I was just an embarrassment to the family name. She exhaled sharply, then turned to my father. Maybe we can talk to the manager, explain the mistake, get the charge reduced. I shrugged. You can try. My father shot me a glare before storming toward the patio, pulling out his phone. I could hear his voice rising as he demanded to speak to the property manager. My mother turned back to me, eyes wide, trying to mask her panic. Honey, be reasonable. You know we didn't mean anything by those jokes. Didn't you? I raised an eyebrow. Because you've been saying the same things for years. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You know what's funny? You've spent so much time making fun of my job. But when it came time to book this trip, when you wanted luxury, comfort, expensive food, drinks, and private beaches, suddenly my money was good enough. Her lips pressed together. I shook my head, glancing around at the guests, who were now dead silent. You all came here expecting a free ride. I don't know if my parents told you they were covering everything, or if you just assumed. I let out a short laugh. Either way, you're all about to learn a very expensive lesson. The front door swung open. My father stormed back in, red-faced. They won't waive the charges, he growled. They said we should have read the policy. Oh, you should have. I nodded. Because I did. His eyes snapped to me. You knew. I smiled. Of course I knew. He stared at me like I was a stranger. And you let this happen? I shrugged. You let this happen. I gestured at the entire situation. I planned a trip for 3 people. You invited 12 extra. You assumed I'd just foot the bill, like I always do. His jaw clenched. So what now? You're just gonna let this charge go through? Not exactly, I said, pulling out my phone again. I already made alternative arrangements. My mother's voice turned sharp. What do you mean? I tapped the screen twice. Send. Check your email. She did. And then I watched her face shatter. She turned to my father, horrified. He canceled our booking. My father snatched the phone from her hands, I scanning the email in disbelief. This says we have to vacate the villa by noon tomorrow. That's right. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. I rebooked it. For myself. My mother's face twisted. You wouldn't. I would. She let out a nervous laugh. But where are we supposed to go? All the hotels around here are booked. That sounds like a you problem. My father's hands curled into fists. You think this is funny? Leaving your own family stranded? I met his glare without flinching. You left me stranded years ago. Silence. No more laughter. No more mockery. Just the slow, dawning realization that they had pushed me too far. For once, I was the one holding the power. I grabbed a glass of whiskey from the table, my whiskey, and took a slow sip. Then I turned to my parents, my voice calm, my message clear. You should start packing. The clock on the wall read 10:47 p.m. It had taken me exactly 4 minutes to turn their dream vacation into an absolute nightmare. Outside, the waves crashed softly against the shore, but inside the villa, there was nothing but silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. The guests sat frozen, wine glasses in hand, caught mid-laughter. My mother looked pale. My father's jaw was clenched so tight his temple twitched. They weren't laughing anymore. This is a joke, right? My uncle let out a weak chuckle, looking around for reassurance. I took a slow sip of my whiskey. Victory tasted smooth. No. My father's eyes narrowed. For the first time in his life, I think he realized I wasn't just the golden ATM he had raised. Son, be reasonable. This is your family. How could you do this to us? Oh, I'm the bad guy now? I raised an eyebrow. You didn't think about me when you filled my villa with freeloaders. But it's just money. My mother snapped, desperation creeping into her voice. You're rich, aren't you? What's the big deal? There it was. Even now, they didn't get it. Oh, it's just money. I let out a cold chuckle. Great. If money's not a problem, you pay for it. I pulled out my phone, opened the invoice, and held it up. We're at $52,000 now. Since everyone here is living the high life, let's split the bill. I turned to the guests, gesturing casually. That's about $4,000 per person. Should be easy, right? My father's face hardened. My mother nearly dropped her wine glass. What? You heard me. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. I could see it now. They didn't have the money. All right, I shrugged. If you can't pay, you pack your things. You can't just kick us out, my mother gasped. I tilted my head. Why not? The villa manager confirmed that I rebooked the place. It belongs to me for the next 3 weeks. My father's face was turning red. You knew? He asked slowly, voice dangerously low. I gave him a lazy smile. Of course. He stared at me like I was a stranger. And you just let this happen? You let this happen, I shot back, gesturing around the room. I booked a vacation for 3 people. You brought a dozen extras. You assumed I'd just cover everything. Well, what do you expect us to do now? My mother cried. All the hotels are booked, eh? Not my problem. My father's hands curled into fists. You think this is funny? Leaving your own family stranded? I met his glare, unwavering. You left me stranded years ago. Silence. No more mockery, no more jokes. Just the slow, dawning realization that they had pushed too far. I took another sip of my drink, savoring the moment. You should start packing. By the time midnight rolled around, the villa was a complete disaster zone. This is insane. We won't find a hotel at this hour. How are we supposed to get home? They ran around like headless chickens, making frantic phone calls, searching for any available rooms. But me? I just sat back and enjoyed the show. One by one, the guests started leaving, dragging their suitcases behind them. My uncle, his face twisted in rage, turned to me at the door. How are we supposed to get back? I gave him the same carefree shrug he had given me earlier when laughing at my career. You didn't ask me when you came. Why should I care how you leave? He muttered a string of curses under his breath and stormed off into the night. And then, finally, it was just me and my parents. My mother's face was streaked with tears. My father stood stiffly by the door, hands clenched into fists. You'll regret this, he said, voice dangerously low. I smiled. Maybe. I took another sip of whiskey. But not tonight. And with that, I closed the door in their faces. The door shut with a satisfying click. For the first time since I arrived, silence filled the villa. No mocking laughter, no patronizing voices, no entitled demands. Just me. Alone. And I had never felt better. I strolled back to the bar, poured myself another drink, and stepped onto the balcony. Below, my parents stood on the driveway, their luggage at their feet. My mother paced, frantically tapping on her phone. My father stood rigid, staring out at the ocean, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. They were trapped. No hotels. No spare rooms. No easy way home. I let out a slow breath. For years, I had let them walk all over me. I had funded their expenses, tolerated their condescension, laughed off their mockery. And they had never once thanked me. Never once treated me like anything other than a walking wallet. But tonight, they had no one to rely on but themselves. And for the first time in their lives, they were going to have to deal with the consequences alone. I took a sip of whiskey, letting the bitterness settle on my tongue. Then my phone rang. Mom. I let it buzz. Then another call. And another. 5 missed calls. Then 6. Then bang, bang, bang. The pounding on the villa door was so hard the walls shook. Open this door right now, my father bellowed. I took another sip of my drink. No. You entitled little. Careful, I warned. You're not in a position to insult me. This isn't funny, my mother cried. We have nowhere to go. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Here it comes. The cycle. The pattern I had grown up with. First, anger. Then, guilt-tripping. And if that didn't work? Manipulation. Sweetheart, my mother's voice softened instantly, switching tactics. You can't do this to us. We're your parents. I chuckled. Oh, now we're getting to the good part. Please, she begged. We made a mistake, all right? But don't punish us like this. You're not a cruel person. No, I'm not, I agreed. But I'm also not a fool. Silence. I stepped closer to the door, leaning against it. Let me guess. If I let you back in, everything will go back to normal. You'll say it was all a misunderstanding, and by next week, I'll be paying for something else you can't afford. That's not fair. Neither was inviting half the city to my vacation. It was just friends. Who were drinking my liquor, eating my food, and laughing at my job. More silence. I smiled. I had them cornered. Here's the thing, Mom. Dad. I exhaled, calm and collected. I don't care if you made a mistake. You don't respect me. You never have. My father scoffed. Oh, quit the theatrics. Theatrics. My voice hardened. Tell me, Dad, is it theatrics when you laugh at my career in front of your friends? When you treat me like a joke while spending the money I work for? Is it theatrics when you expect me to pay for your life without a second thought? Silence. I continued, voice sharp as a knife. The only time I matter to you is when I'm handing over my credit card. The rest of the time, I'm nothing but a disappointment. That's not true. It is. And tonight, you get to live with the consequences of treating me like a bank instead of a son. I heard my mother sniffle. Please, don't do this. I shook my head, a cold smile forming. Good night. And then, I walked away. The final desperate attempt. I should have expected what happened next. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A message. Dad, we're going home today. But this isn't over. I let out a slow breath, scrolling through the texts. Mom, you've really hurt us. We raised you. We gave you everything. And this is how you treat us? Dad, don't forget where you came from. Mom, we're still your parents. One day, you'll regret this. It was so predictable it almost made me laugh. First, anger. Then, guilt. Then, a final attempt to reassert control. But this time, I wasn't playing their game anymore. I put my phone on silent, set it down on the nightstand, and stretched. The villa was quiet now. Peaceful. For the first time in years, I had finally set boundaries. And it felt incredible. I thought it was over. That morning, I sat on the villa's terrace, sipping my coffee, staring at the empty driveway where my parents had stood the night before. The air smelled like salt and victory. I should have felt guilty. I didn't. For the first time in years, I had finally drawn a line. I had set a boundary, and this time, they had no choice but to respect it. Or so I thought. At noon, my phone buzzed again. Mom, we just got home. Let's talk when you're ready. I ignored it. Dad, you humiliated us. In front of our friends. After everything we've done for you. I ignored that too. For the next 2 days, the messages kept coming. Some were pleas. Others were thinly veiled threats. Mom, sweetheart, families don't do this to each other. Dad, if you want to cut us off, fine. But don't expect us to be there when you need help. Mom, just call us. Let's fix this before it gets worse. And then, at 8:36 a.m. on the third day, I got a call from my boss. Hey, he said, his voice hesitant. Just wanted to check in. Your parents called our office this morning. I nearly dropped my coffee. Excuse me. Yeah. Said they were concerned about your mental health. That you've been acting irrationally, making impulsive financial decisions. They wanted to know if everything was okay at work. I stood up so fast my chair nearly toppled over. You've got to be kidding me. Nope, my boss said, sighing. Look, I told them we don't discuss our employees' private matters, but you might want to handle this before it escalates. My hands shook as I ended the call. They had gone too far. I had expected manipulation. I had expected guilt tripping. But this was a direct attack on my career. I took a deep breath, opened my phone, and typed. Me, you crossed a line. Don't ever call my workplace again. Mom, we were just worried about you. Me, no. You were trying to destroy my job because I stopped paying for your life. This is the last time I speak to either of you. Dad, don't be dramatic. Me, watch me. And then, I blocked them. Their numbers. Their emails. Their social media accounts. For the first time in my life, I cut them off completely. 1 month later. It was strange at first. For years, my life had been dictated by their needs. My finances, my time, my energy, all of it had gone toward making their lives easier. Now, there was silence. No messages. No sudden financial emergencies. No guilt tripping. Just me, living for myself. I moved. A different city, a different apartment, a fresh start. I threw myself into my work, picked up old hobbies I had abandoned. For the first time in forever, I wasn't waiting for the next call asking for money. It felt freeing. Until the inevitable happened. The last message. 2 months after I cut them off, I got an email. From my mother. I almost deleted it without reading. But something made me pause. I opened it. Subject. I'm sorry. The message was short. I don't know if you'll ever speak to us again. I don't blame you. But I want you to know. I regret everything. We were wrong. I was wrong. And now, I finally understand. We took you for granted. We thought you'd always be there. And now we've lost you. Your father won't admit it, but he knows too. He just doesn't know how to say it. I don't expect you to forgive us. I just hope One day, you'll be able to look back and remember us as something other than what we became. No matter what, we love you. That was it. No request for money. No attempt to manipulate me. Just an admission of defeat. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the email. I didn't reply. Not because I hated them. Not because I wanted revenge. But because, for the first time in my life, I finally understood something. Love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Family doesn't mean financial servitude. And sometimes, walking away is the only way to be free.